Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out here today. A great day at Rosedew Park, which will soon be named along with Falligant Pavilion. And I know Alderman Thomas really brags a lot about the history out here, and rightfully so, because it is deep, rich in history from back in the 1700s through the 1800s, when we have a little more records in the 1800s. Dr. Falligant. This was called Falligant Ward after Dr. Falligant. Now, 9 months ago, we named the Herbie Batiste Pier just over there, the beautiful view out into the water. Also, I wanted to recognize or make an announcement that, in 1980, this was county land. It was in 1980 that the city annexed this and brought this into the city of Savannah. Another thing, there's been confusion on the name. Well, Rosedew, R-O-S-E-D-E-W, was the original Rosedew, the town of Rosedew. It's also spelled with two words, Rosedew and Rosedew, D-H-U. All those were acceptable during Dr. Falligant's time here. Our Mayor, Eddie DeLoach, is with us today. Mayor, thank you for coming out here today. Alderman Tony Thomas for the 6th District. I see Battalion Chief Harper has joined us, Capital Projects team, and of course, Joe Shearhouse, who plays an instrumental role in all these renamings. Joe, thank you very much for coming out with us. So we'd like to start things off first with our Mayor, Eddie DeLoach.
I'll make it short and sweet. We're glad to have everybody here. It's overcrowded, and anybody, we're having a difficulty set up some more chairs in this area over in here. We need those. But no, it's good to be here today, and it is a great day. The Falligants have played a large part in all of the history of the city of Savannah. I know several of them, and wonderful people, did a great job. And I got a history lesson fixing to come right now from Tony, so I'm going to sit back and listen and pick up on the I met a lady right here that lived right here. She can talk about it. I don't know if she wants to or not, but anyway, but it is a lot of history back here, and we're glad to be here today, and just appreciate all the people that are a part of this community, and anything we can do for y'all, just let us know. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to have to lower the mic a little. I'm not quite as tall as you are. I'm surprised you didn't say it's a great day in Savannah. You said have a great day, but it's a great day in Savannah, so I am going to stay with that theme. And we were asked to keep our comments short, but so I had to cut mine back to just over an hour. So I'm going to try to shave some of that off, if you don't mind. Being here on this site is really special because this is probably one of the most fought over pieces of property in Chatham County's history. What people don't realize is that we are here today because of the city's role to keep open access to the water, but also there was a Supreme Court decision on this very property that allowed the Marine Rescue Squadron to continue to operate, had an easement down the middle, and of course the vision that Dr. Falligant had in 1887, 132 years ago, to dedicate part of this land for city use or county use at that time as a park. I want to go over just, quickly I want to acknowledge a few people. I see Sandy Batiste. Now you will recognize Sandy in the future. She's already done some things out here history related. She comes from a legacy of folks that are dedicated to the Coffee Bluff community. And I believe you'll see a lot more of the Gullah Geechee culture evolve from the history that Sandy will be bringing to life out here through work at the Crusader Center and other areas of Coffee Bluff / White Bluff, or White Bluff / Coffee Bluff, whichever group you're in, right, Sandy? Correct. But I wanted to acknowledge you and thank you for coming. I want to acknowledge Scott Larson. Scott Larson, a former reporter for the Savannah Morning News, now works at a hospital, and him and his family live just up the road, and I know for a fact that they use this park pretty regular, so I'm glad that they came down to acknowledge this moment. And I do want to acknowledge Miss Petty. 63 years ago, she lived in probably the most fought after building in the state's history that went to the Supreme Court, and the decision to keep it here is the reason it's here today. So, Miss Petty, thank you for coming out. Chuck, who oversees he's our official park ranger over in Windsor Forest and looks after the 5 parks. And I do want to thank a lot of the city staff that are here, especially Joey Shearhouse. Joey has done just a great job in helping to make these things happen and to move them along, and I just appreciate everything that you've done, Joe, for not just this park but for the others. It's kind of a bittersweet day as well. I understand, I just found out this morning that we are losing through Buddy Carter's office, one of our own, Matthew Worth. Matthew, thank you for all that you've done in the years that we've worked together and setting these things up and doing all the things that are necessary. We wish you the very best with Buddy Carter. And I'm going to hound you about that tank that we're still owed for the Veterans Memorial Park beginning Monday. So get ready. So I want to thank also Luciana, our archivist, who's not here with us. She kind of put all of the history together, and I do want to read that into the public record. Always an alarm going off at the right time. I do want to read that into the record because I want folks to know just how special this area is. Coffee Bluff Marina is what I call the Southport of our city. If you take this road, Coffee Bluff Road, and you begin walking and you keep walking for 12 miles, you'll walk right into the front doors of the Savannah City Hall. And you'll walk through 3 roads. Coffee Bluff becomes White Bluff, becomes Bull Street. It's almost a straight line that divides the city. It's also documented as one of the oldest, quote, roads in the state of Georgia. We have carbon-dated pottery that's found on this road from the Indian tribes that dealt from one river to the next going back 2,500 years. So the people have been in this area for a very long time. And I will tell you that it's gotten a little smaller. If you look at the map from 1887 of this area where we're at right now, Back Street is right here, and it shows a Front Street that's no longer there. So Front Street's out in the river somewhere. So erosion over time has taken some of our frontage off, but the Southport is still healthy and the Southport is still strong, and I encourage folks to bring their families and come down here and enjoy what we have done with the $6.5 million in SPLOST dollars that made this possible in 2007. So when that penny vote comes up, it's important for folks to realize that a penny makes a huge difference, because this is $6.5 million of pennies that built and made this open access available to folks in the city of Savannah. So I'm very proud of that. Rosedew Plantation, and thank you, Ken, for talking about the spelling, because the spelling is very important. Rosedew, the original town of Rosedew, laid out was R-O-S-E-D-E-W. Today you'll recognize Rosedew as R-O-S-E-D-H-U. There were several ways it was written, but Rosedew was the official. Rosedew Plantation was purchased by George Jones Collick in 1838. Collick already owned Coffee Bluff and Retreat, adjacent to Rosedew on the south. Collick inherited Coffee Bluff and Retreat by marrying the granddaughter of Sir Patrick Houston, the original owner of these properties. The land was initially granted to Houston by the English crown for the cultivation of silk, but was ultimately used to grow corn and cotton. Collick lived at Rosedew until 1849, when he moved to Ossabaw Island. Collick abandoned Retreat and Rosedew in 1863, and his daughter sold the land in 1873. By 1887, it was owned by the Falligant family. Historical records show the plantation and subsequent communities spelled Rosedew with the DHU, Rosedew with the DEW, and Rosedew separated interchangeably at the time. After the Civil War, the area was settled by freed slaves from St. Catherine's Island and remained a small African-American community into the 20th century. The 1887 Chatham County map of Grant Ward, Lee Ward, and part of Falligant Ward in the town of Rosedew shows a Rosedew Park. Railroads ran out to Rosedew as early as 1887 with the incorporation of Savannah, of the Savannah, Vernon, and Rosedew Railroad Company. The Vernon Park Railway and the Savannah and Isle of Hope Railway, incorporated in 1890 and 1889 respectively, also served Rosedew. In 1909, 112 acres of Rosedew Plantation were deeded by the Falligant family for the use as a militia target range by the Chathams. In 1980, the city annexed the area around Rosedew and Coffee Bluff into the city limits. Now, Rosedew Island, which is what we call Girl Scout Island today, was a home to a formidable fortification in 1779 during the Siege of Savannah. During the Civil War, Confederate troops manned a battery on the island, awaiting the arrival of Sherman's army. Ruins of these fortifications are still visible on the island, And in 1964, the Girl Scouts purchased the island for use as a recreational camp. That is a great synopsis and just a quick glance at the history we have here, but there's so much more. As I said earlier, Sandy's working on the Gullah Geechee, but that's just a part of it. To imagine that there was a town laid out, and a man 132 years ago that we're going to honor here in just a minute had the vision to lay out what would become this park that we're in is something extraordinary when you think about it. And I'm proud that we're remembering him. Even though it's late getting around, people who do things for the community and do these important things for the future for people that they will never see, it's important to recognize them. So today we're going to recognize him as we open this new park and, of course, this pavilion that we're under today. Now, I'm proud to bring this park into the group of parks that we have created on the south side in the last few years. The Joseph J. Tribble Park in Windsor Forest is an extraordinary lake-dominated park. The John Henry Murphy Park, the Tom Fulton Park. Of course, our newest park opening was Windsor Park, which also houses the Windsor Dog Park, which is heavily used by folks. We have also the Cedar Grove Nature Trail, and one that I'm really proud of that Matthew's going to learn a lot more about, the Veterans Memorial Park, with the tallest flag in the city of Savannah that's anchored at the Truman and Abercorn. That recognizes and appreciates the service of our veterans in our community that have paid the ultimate price. And I'm proud to announce we'll also have another park coming behind Savannah Mall in the middle ground area called Mohawk Lake. Be very similar to Tribble Park, but we'll have other amenities, including a dog park, a walking trail, a lake, playground for the kids, different other amenities for our citizens. So those pennies, we go back to SPLOST. Those pennies we talk about make a huge difference. And the pennies that the visitors that come here and spend money in our community and leave behind make a huge difference for our residents. So it's important that we consider that and to vote ahead for SPLOST. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for being out here today. And I want to thank all of you for enduring that little history lesson that Luciana gave us. And I want to thank you, Ms. Petty, for taking the time to come out here and 63 years later to a place where you grew up. And she's very amazed at how it looks. But I'm very proud of this. This is one of the greatest things that we've done out on the south side. And I will tell you that it wasn't easy. It was a 20-year fight to make this happen. Sandy Batiste's father, who the pier is named after, Herbert Batiste, and I spent many a time sitting around having coffee and getting advice on how to handle things that were going, because it wasn't always easy. But I will tell you that it's worth it. And I will tell you that this site that we're on was going to be everything except for what it is today. It was going to be 42 condominiums. It was going to be 12 houses, 6 houses, 4 houses and a marina nestled in the middle. It was everything what it shouldn't be. Today it becomes everything of what it should be. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud to have the support of the mayor and the city staff and everyone who contributed to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Thomas. That concludes our portion up here. Of course, we'll now unveil the signs. I believe, Nick, we're going to do Rosedew Park sign first. That's the one over in the corner. And then we'll come on over here and unveil the sign for the pavilion.
3, 2, 1. Two, one. Always get worried about that too.